5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Come and Brew It Radio, coming to you from Texas Brewing Inc. in Halton City, Texas. You can find us on the web at txbrewing.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and share with your friends.
Just when you thought it was safe, we're back again.
And again.
And again.
In this episode, we're going to continue many of our regular features, but also discuss our new series, Make Beer, Beer Again. Last episode, we discussed our American Pale Ales. Tonight, we discuss their British counterparts, and specifically strong bitters. We have several variations on the same idea, both commercial and those that we have brewed ourselves to varying success. We will talk about how they came out and what we would do different in the future, and we also have a couple of guests with us to share their examples too.
Before we get started, be sure to check out our Patreon account to help support the show. Every little bit counts, and if you visit patreon.com/comeandbrewradio, we have a variety of options for you to help keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. Also, every live show, we'll have a giveaway for all of our patrons at the end of each month.
Spit it out.
We'll be doing a
more what I'm
monthly
used
product
to
giveaway
hearing.
for all of our $5, $10, and $20 patrons. I'm Chris. Just try too.
I'm Nigel.
I'm Stubby.
I'm Brian.
I'm Austin.
And then we have Justin and
Deborah.
Deborah in the back.
Deborah,
Yes.
yeah.
And we got Tyler and Eric in the control room
Fretting.
playing. Oh, no.
I don't, nothing's on fire yet. That's the important thing.
You can't do
Well,
that.
welcome back, guys. I know it's been a while since we've actually had a show. I'm sure some of you have heard that we had a pretty traumatic death in the Come and Brew It podcast. I'm sure you may have heard that in the last episode. So it's taken us a little bit of time. He was such an integral part of the podcast. It's kind of taken us a little bit of time to get back rolling again. Kind of finding our footing and getting this thing started. But in the meantime, we've got a hell of a lot of stuff to catch up on and stuff to talk about. And hopefully we can make this rocking and rolling again. And we appreciate all you guys that are patrons that have kind of stuck with us. I know that you guys have gotten some knew what was kind of going on. And if you're following us on Facebook or any social media, you would know what loss that we've experienced. So anyhow, going forward, what do we got going tonight, Nigel?
Well, tonight we're going to talk mainly in the second half about strong bitters. We're just going to sample many different versions and talk about their place in the style guidelines. There's, like you say, there's lots of happenings. There's lots of things that's gone on. I tried to keep it pretty recent in the list that I've got here to discuss tonight. The first one we got is some recent closures, particularly around the DFW area. Anybody that's familiar with the DFW beer scene may have already heard that the Collective Brewing Project and the Luck restaurant with local urban craft kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And the Common Table, which is another well-known craft bar, craft beer bar and stuff, all have closed in the past 2 to 3 weeks, and they're going to leave a hole in the craft beer scene around
I
here.
don't know if we covered it during the last show as well, but did we cover Rabbit Hole
Yes.
closing
Yes,
last
we did.
time? Okay,
Yeah.
couldn't remember.
Yeah.
And then TKO also announced that they were closing.
Yeah.
Also,
so-
Old Town.
Also Old Town.
Old Town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of closures recently.
Yeah. Yeah, there has. So, I mean, what typically happens with any industry, really, there's always a boom, and then there's victims and casualties of that boom that for whatever reason can't make it work or don't get the support that they need, or for whatever reason it may be. But the Collective Brewing Project, you've heard them here on the podcast on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
Great guys, great beer. Unfortunately, just
Well, I
got
think
notice of that
they're kind of
close.
I think they were kind of victim to the whole sour beer craze, and it's kind of not there anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you have to be when you're a brewer. You have to be pretty well rounded and be able to if not change with the times, you got to be able
diversify,
to,
right?
You got to diversify,
Yeah.
And so that's tough when you're pretty much an all sour brewery because it's tough to do. You go back to clean once you're already really sour.
Did they start the seltzer craze around town though?
They did do a lot of seltzers.
Along with Peeps and Glitter. They were the famous, the ones who got notoriety for putting glitter in their beer and stuff like that too.
And also
the ramen.
Ramen, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
cup of beer.
But, that was a sad day. I mean, they were a great customer of ours, and we hated to see those. The luck thing is kind of an interesting thing because they really didn't go out of business per se. They just weren't able to renew their lease, and they're going on to do other things.
Yeah, aren't they opening a location or reserve location at the airport?
The same guys are opening a brew pub / partnership with Cedar Creek that they're opening a new location. So those guys are going to do all the food for Cedar Creek Brewing. So that's that was pretty much well known almost a year ago that they were eventually going to close because they're going to demolish that whole area over there and put big high rises.
Yeah.
So they knew the day was coming. They had actually been, I think, almost running a year without a lease. So they didn't. I mean, it was almost like month to month kind of thing for a long time. So I think once that kind of happened, they were just like, we're going to go do something different, new. I mean, we may have Jeff back on at a different point.
I'm going to say, I mean, they've been on the show at least twice that I know of.
They've done food and beer pairings. They really do really good stuff like that. So I'm going to miss the smoked corned beef. That
pastrami sandwich was unbelievable, wasn't it? Yeah. And I'm not super familiar with the common table, so maybe.
Well, I think it's one of those things that I think a lot of times people, they try to get this, and this is just me, from what I've seen this happen over the last 10 years at least. People try to make beer like high end. They try to make like a boutique type thing out of it, and it really or with like pairing with really expensive food and charge normal pricing for a beer is $5 to $6, but then you're going to this place like this and it's $7 or $8 a beer,
right?
And I think a lot of people that are beer drinkers, I don't think people really or at least from my standpoint is that when you're going to drink beer, you're not necessarily going to eat food. Food is kind of ancillary. But is it me or is my does my mic keep going up and but
tonight is wearing off. It's fine.
So one of the things that that I've seen multiple places close. They're trying. I think food is good with beer, but unless I think a lot of times they think, it's going to be beer and food, but I think it's either one or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like you have a badass restaurant that just happens to carry a good selection of beer, or you're going to drink beer at a brewery or brew pub or something like that, and then you eat the food because you're there drinking beer. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And if it's the latter, obviously, you've got to have good beer to draw people in, and you want your food to be good.
Right.
But I don't know if you can ever reach that market where you're doing you're selling craft beer that you brewed and you've made, and then go for high-end kitchen as well. I think that's a tough ask, because if any one of those two products are not quite up to scratch, you're going to be struggling.
Well, people typically are drinking beer, not like high-end food.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The food also could be just good food, but common basic, like give me pub grub. I'm fine with just a burger or fish and chips or
about the only people that are
whatever,
doing well that are just splitting that difference,
or just good barbecue or something, just something basic and simple with beer. That stuff goes great with beer. What do we have at our cookouts all the time? In our personal lives, beer, it goes great with all that.
Cowtown's kind of splitting that difference.
Yeah.
They're doing good barbecue. They're doing
fantastic beer and fantastic barbecue.
But it's not high-end dining either.
Yeah, but they've even parlayed that and dumbed down their food to where they have a lot of handheld sandwiches now. They have brats and wraps and
honestly, I like that. I like the more the working man's approach or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, but my point was I don't know if you guys ever remember the Covey over in Fort Worth. It was one of the first brew pubs in Dallas, Fort Worth. It was Jamie Fulton's place. He's now the head brewer over at Community over there in Dallas. And that was kind of their thing. So the restaurant, the brewery was kind of in the center, and it kind of split off two sides of the brew house, and one side was a high-end restaurant, and the other side was just kind of a bar that served pizza. Well, you would go into this place, and the side with the pizza and the beer was always packed. But the restaurant was empty. Yeah. So I mean, to me, that's kind of where it went.
If you're going to drink beer and you go out for a night drinking beer, chances are you want it to be an informal night.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting dichotomy there, because as a chef, when I was working over at Barley and Board and a couple other places in Dallas, I've done quite a few beer pairings that are really fine dining. And if you're going to have an event like that, you can totally do that. But as far as a total
night
concept,
kind of thing,
it's a little different. Especially like you were talking on the price point thing. It's like, are we as craft beer trying to compete with wine and trying to be what the wine industry was? Because I don't really think that that's what beer is. Some people do, but and I've seen it done really well. The Brewers Table in Austin, if you guys have ever been there, it's a very, very nice
They're a good
restaurant.
customer of ours.
Yeah, they're great guys, very good people, but they have a super amazing, really high-end restaurant and some of the best beer I've had in Austin. And as far as I know, they're doing really well. But
awesome.
Like Nigel said, I mean, it's, doing both of them really well. That's the trick,
Yeah.
So
awesome. So I know they went way down a rabbit hole on that one,
okay.
but
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Rabbit holes are our friend.
yes.
Yeah. Next one is Hot Fusion. Announced last week they're due to expand their tap room and their facilities over in Fort Worth. That's pretty exciting.
I think they bought out the whole building that they were adjacent to, and the little bit of lot next to it as well. So the initial pictures I saw, they were planning on having an outdoor seating garden area, in addition to having more indoor seating, and I'm hoping maybe offering a little bit more, maybe have a better space for having food trucks arrive, or maybe have a small kitchen. Maybe
I don't know. I don't think the kitchen's in the cards at all.
Yeah.
So Hot Fusion, I don't. The guys have been on. I think he was on their last episode. Is that right? Macy was from Hot Fusion.
Yeah, he was.
Just kind of give you guys some history. We've been good friends with these guys for a long time. They were home brewers originally at the shop, and
Macy's old fridge is in my garage now.
Yeah. they hold a really a special place in my heart, because they really were one of the first to believe in us and our pro side, and they really jumped on board. And if it wasn't for those guys, I don't know if we would have the expanse that we do in our pro side, because they were really jumped in both feet and really helped us out in that regard. So really love those guys. So I always like to see them do well, So, but anyway, the next thing, everything.
Before we jump to the other thing, have we talked about our other two locals that announced that they were opening in the near future?
No, but we do have what do we have?
Stan's Place,
Neutral Ground,
and
Stuart
Maple Branch.
Yeah.
So as fast as breweries are closing, they're also open.
Yeah, it seems to be very cyclical. It's they'll always be.
Yeah.
Well, and that's just typical with business in general,
small business especially.
And I think that's where the beer industry's really come to, is because I think and I feel really sad for a lot of the guys that got started maybe 6-7 years ago. And the reason being is because they came into a market that was ready to rock and roll with all these guys. When they came in and they started brewing beer, it didn't even have to be really great beer. It just had to be on average beer.
It was a thirsty market.
It's a thirsty market, and these people were really excited to support local breweries and stuff like that. And so what has happened is a lot of those guys coming in, and when they started, and they kind of got caught in that bubble area, to where there wasn't a whole lot of breweries, but there was still some established breweries. Right. So what happened to a lot of these guys is they're going, and this is all over the United States, and it's really strange because I travel all over the United States. I went and hit 40, 50 different breweries last week. And one of the things that's interesting is you see that some people are in some places they're much more developed market than what we are, and then some places you go to they're brand new market like Mississippi, Alabama, or where we were 6 years ago. So you see,
well, there's even a little bit of that. Even still here in North Texas, I mean, like we're up in Denton County. We're just finally adding our third brewery, or we just finally added our third brewery in Denton County, Howling Mutt.
Yeah, Howling Mutt. They're right
and
on the square,
they're really
right?
good. Yeah, and that's so like
they're super.
Where
smart
Dallas
too.
and Fort Worth were, 4 or 5 years ago, Denton County is starting to go that way, and I know there's at least 2 or 3 others that are in planning stages and all that.
Well, the point I was trying to make on that was that when these guys came into the market, let's just say Dallas Fort Worth, you got 6-7 million people in this whole area. Well, that's a lot of people to service. So what happened is when you had breweries open like 6 years ago, they were like, I cannot make enough beer.
Right.
I could sell every drop that I'm making. And so what a lot of these guys, they expanded really quickly. Yeah. And so they got into an area, they're like, they got a lot of investors, they got a lot of debt, and they bought and bought and bought and bought tanks and bought and hired more people. Right. And then all of a sudden all these little ankle biters started opening up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're taking part of the market share, and then they're going, oh crap, we can't sell as much beer as we used to. And I'm really good friends. I'm not going to name
payments start coming due. Some of those.
I'm not going to name names, but I've known a few of the big craft breweries guys here in DFW for 15, 20 years, some of them. And one of the things that was really interesting is I asked one guy one time, I said, do you ever see yourself going outside of Texas? And he goes, oh, why the hell would I ever go outside of Texas? And now he's in 15 states. Right. So, and the reason that they're in 15 states is not because they're selling more beer. It's to maintain or try to grow the business a little bit. Yeah. And the reason being is because there's so much, the market share is shrunk. So where we see everybody going is this little small brew pub type thing.
Well, that's something really interesting. I mean, from the pro side of it, not only do we have to navigate, we're up in Denton, so navigating the Denton area as we have more breweries open, like Howling Mutt, it's really interesting because the market nationally and even globally changes. I mean, look at the haze craze that went through. Yeah. It's very difficult to find that balance and maintain that balance because, look at Martin House pickle beer. It exploded crazy. And obviously, profit-wise, margin-wise, you want to have the next pickle beer. Right. But like you said, Stubby, you also want to be rounded.
Absolutely.
So
the pickle beer is not probably going to be there forever. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
It's just so... and that's the thing is that I find really interesting and about the trends and stuff that I see out there is that, and I don't think you can hang your hat on one thing.
Oh, absolutely not.
But that's the advantage you have as a small brewery, though.
Yeah.
You're able to pivot and change a lot easier than somebody like Sam Adams or something like that, because they have to spend a lot of money in market research and
they're also
labeling
known for brand.
So it's a real challenge for a lot of these bigger breweries to pivot, because by the time these bigger breweries make that change, that fad and trend is already gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a whole other side of that when you get into talking about brew pubs versus primarily production breweries.
Yeah.
Brew pubs with primarily taproom sales are more of a tourism entity than they are a production business. And actually, that's what I study in grad school is tourism and hospitality management and stuff. Okay. And looking at that, take DCPC for example. Most of our sales go through our tap room. I would say probably 70-80%.
Well, and that's where you want it, really, because that's where you're making the most margin.
You're
not paying anybody else to sell you.
Yeah, but it's a whole different game. If you're trying to make it just on production numbers and just on distribution and getting out there,
it's tough.
You have to have a whole other experience to your beer, and the only time you get to tell that story is in the actual product. Versus absolutely. Us, we have a whole tap room. So
absolutely. Well, and that's where we see. It's kind of funny because I've talked to a couple of people that have thought about opening breweries and basically said, after I've done all of my research, I've done, looking at, what I would need to do and business plans and stuff like that. A lot of people go, well, you know what you really have to do now? You have to own a bar.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to own a bar. I'm like, well, if you don't want to own a bar now, you need to just not even think about opening a brewery.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
But anyway,
right.
let's move along.
Yeah, let's move along.
Yeah.
So, was announced this last week. Sierra Nevada are doing another version of their resilience, this time to help the guys down in Australia with their forest fires and bushfires. It's called Resilience Down Under, and I know a bunch of the brewers and brewing community will come together and raise a bunch of money for relief down there. And the guys in Houston, Platypus Brewing, they're also doing something similar, right?
Yeah. As far as I know, that they're the only ones I've seen announce that they're doing it so far.
Okay.
But I've been a little bit out of the loop on locals.
Yeah, I've not seen too much on it. I just saw that the announcement came out. So.
But I did get a chance to visit them and bring some of their beer back when I was in Houston at the beginning of this month.
And we will drink it.
Yes.
And also Atwater Brewing in Detroit, Detroit's largest brewery, sold out to Miller Coors this week too. So another one bites the dust. And then one more thing on recent happenings before we move on. It's so recent, it's happening right now. It's live. A member of our Come and Brew It family, Sandra, you've heard her on the podcast on multiple occasions. She has a position, I believe her title is Apprentice Brewer at Panther Island in Fort Worth. And
either apprentice or junior.
Yeah, one of the two. Yeah. But she's been working there for a little bit and brewing beers. She has her first beer release going on right now. So
that's why Michael's not here right now because he's supporting.
Yep, so congratulations to Sandra. We're very proud of her. And I believe we have some of her beer here to taste later on. So
exciting.
That'd be something to look forward to.
Did we get a growler of Sandra's beer?
Eric brought some beer, We can do.
Yeah.
Sure. So we'll sample that in a second.
What are we going to drink?
Sandra's beer.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, cool. All right. Any beer work done this week? Austin, you don't get to speak in this because you work beer every day.
I did a lot of beer work this week.
Yeah. Chris, anything?
Yeah, actually, I've done quite a bit. I finally got rid of the last of my peach wine. A friend of mine finally took that off all my hands, so I've been cleaning kegs.
That's full of joy.
I transferred over and got fully ready our competition beer for Sunday.
Okay, yeah. That's
And
something else we ought to talk about too.
I cleaned out the camperator.
There's something happening Sunday? What?
Bum, bum, bum.
Not quite this week, but recent. I took the BJCP exam and passed the entrance exam and did the tasting.
Yeah, congratulations.
Very cool.
On that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, along with a bunch of other people local. I've transferred beers. I have a Braggot bulk aging at home. I have a Roush beer that I did with Brandon last weekend. And I have a new cider that I'm pitching, doing experiments with nutrients and temperature control.
Wow, you've been busy.
Yeah.
I've been bottling for Bluebonnet. That's all I've been doing.
I'm not even going to bother. I might enter one or two things to Bluebonnet this year, but I think I'm going to abstain mostly.
There you go.
So I can actually judge.
Okay, that's good. That's a good way of doing it.
I'll be joining you in judging as well.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, Bluebonnet entries close at the end of the month. I believe there's about 300 spaces left. I've got to get mine in. Most of what I got entered is pretty much in bottles. I got a few left to do, but
I also need to work on trying to do a counterpressure bottle fill for the first time ever.
It's one of the labors I love that we do is bottling.
How fun was that?
Yeah, really.
I've had some negative experiences with counterpressure bottle fill.
Yeah, I've had all the beers I've turned in for our local club competition master brewer. I've poured like straight out of the tap in like growler filler style, and the comments on them are always that it's flat.
Yeah,
it will be.
It will be.
I need a better solution, and I've gotten really mixed results doing side by side of the kegged beer versus bottle conditioned.
Did you get a beer gun?
No, I got an actual the counterpressure,
Counterpressure.
multi-ended with the
very
valve.
Cool. Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's what I use. It works pretty well.
If you just brew British styles, it works out.
there you
a lot
go.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who needs carbonation?
That's really
right?
modern problems require
and
modern
I
solutions.
have 2 really good English beers that I could just put in bottles and
There you
not
go.
worry about
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all these fussy Americans want fizziness in their beer. I don't
That's
know.
crazy.
I don't know.
get
It's
it.
fucking weird.
Yeah.
Stubby,
So,
What?
what have you done?
beer-wise
This
this week, other than travel around drinking breweries and going to
I know,
strange New
40 to
Orleans
50
bars.
in a week. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, when we go out on the road, we hit quite a few. We do at least 10 or 15 a day. So it's so funny because we actually went. So I want to bring out a couple beers that I thought were interesting that I brought along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But this trip here was pretty hectic. We went to we started here in Dallas, and then we drove to San Antonio, and then we went back up to Austin. Spent the night in Austin. Went to Corpus Christi down there on the coast, and drove all the way along the coastline up to Galveston. Drove from Galveston to Lake Charles, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. And then New Orleans, we went to Shreveport and then back home. But
So you did the Brownwater tour.
yeah, it was 1,900 miles, but it was fun. But we got some interesting stuff. In New Orleans is a really interesting brewing scene because most of the breweries there are pretty old. I mean, in the grand scheme of the latest craft beer boom, some of them, I would say probably on average they're 7 to 8 years old, and they're all good sized breweries. I mean, really, really well established breweries, which is strange. You think about New Orleans, but it only has 390,000 people in it. But they have like 12 or 14 really good sized breweries.
Yeah. Compared with the Metroplexes, tiny, right?
Yeah, it's the size of Arlington, a mid city.
See, we have
It's
so
size of
much
the
more room we could do here.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of the I think you got to think about that. You're talking about tourism. I think that's a big part of why they sell so much beer.
Makes sense.
Other than that, and then you have Mardi Gras too. So, because when we were in all these breweries there in New Orleans, they were really pumping out the beer. I mean, they were working hard to get ready for, even though it's only a couple months away from now. But man, they were really, balls to the wall. They were really busy trying to get ready for that. So it's kind of funny because we were talking to them about that. Is that that's their busiest time of the year, and they sell the most beer right then. And then they said after that, it's they don't sell anything, and it's dead. So
make your hay while you can.
So it's kind of an interesting. Dynamic. I don't think that most brewery areas are kind of like that. So.
Well, Louisiana was they were pretty early on the whole law liberalization. And that's a big thing. I mean, when you talk about Texas craft beer, you can't get away from law liberalization because TABC and actual production legalization and stuff, that's a big thing that's held Texas back. And I think that's why we're kind of in the middle of, I mean, we're really seeing the growth of a craft beer industry right now.
It's really funny because I hear people always bash Texas laws. Everybody's got crappy, weird laws. Every single state has a weird, funky law, and you're like, why is it like that?
Yeah, if I have a friend who runs a package store in Pennsylvania.
I was going to say Pennsylvania package store. That's
Pennsylvania.
Utah's
I
got
know
weird.
your brewers up there, and it's just
Oklahoma's got weird laws.
Oh, 3.2. Yeah.
Well, they
Trust
got
me,
rid
I
of
know.
that, but even the
Yeah, but
breweries,
still,
the breweries still have really weird restrictions.
couldn't
and stuff
sell
like
cold
that,
beer
so.
at certain stores, and that's.
Yeah.
I used to be a cop in Oklahoma, and that was. I got up there after being from Texas and going through Texas Academy, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Well, I'm from Oklahoma, so it's a little bit different down here. A little warmer down here than I'm used to. But no, it's really interesting. I mean, like think about Denver, the maturity of the craft beer scene compared to North Texas. Honestly, and I think that we're going through that maturation right now. That's why you're seeing a lot of closings. And
You know
all
what
that kind
though?
of stuff.
I would say this, that after, I travel all over the United States, especially the southern half of the United States, and this is not a knock on anywhere else, but I think North Texas has as good a beer as anywhere else in the nation. I really do.
Quality-wise,
yeah.
100% agree.
And so, for me, even though I think we're still growing in that regard and still doing that, I think we actually may be more mature than where we should be for the age of our and I think a lot of that has to do with the population. We just got so many people from all over the United States here, and we have people moving in from all over the United States in in droves. So I think our big melting pot. So I think that's allowed us to kind of grow.
Stubby, what do you think that's going to weigh out for us then long term? You think we're going to have more solid, steady, sustainable growth instead of the big explosive?
I don't think. I think you're still going to see continue. I think really what you're going to see is statewide, regional breweries suffer.
Okay.
I think the people that are going to be able to be successful are going to be small citywide breweries that are going to have 2 or 3 tap rooms. Okay. I really think that's what's going to happen.
More and more of like the local brew pub or local place kind of feel.
I think on that, and this is about all I know on that, but stylistically, I agree. We're absolutely very mature as far as what's being brewed here in North Texas is really interesting. Infrastructure-wise, as far as long-term sustainable businesses, that kind of stuff, I think that's where we're lacking, and I think that is the thing that is more impacted by the legal side of things. We got some very mature brewers who are running very mature breweries. There's a whole lot can be said for the development of those breweries long term here.
Well, and I think you're going to see that though nationwide. I mean, God,
absolutely.
Abilene, Texas has 120,000 people. They're getting ready to open their 6th brewery.
Yeah. When I lived in Abilene, there was no breweries, and there was one craft beer place.
Well, and they're lucky to even have a bar open. I mean, it's the buckle of the Bible Belt. Man.
I spent a lot of time out in Midland, Odessa, and it's
I grew up there.
Great out there. Yeah,
the university.
I love the area. I love the people. I loved working out there. But it was like, okay, here's Bud Light. Yeah, I mean that's what you're gonna get. It's
an example of how Bible thumping Abilene used to be. Is ACU, Abilene Christian University, used to own the franchise rights to Hooters for the area. They owned it so that they could not open a restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
And up until a couple years ago, they retained it. Then they kept paying the license fees for it, and Hooters corporate said, "We're not allowing you to renew it anymore because you're not opening a store."
All right.
We've caught on to you.
Jeez, that's really funny.
But anyhow, it really is kind of interesting. And for people that are listening around the world, they probably don't give 2 craps about Abilene. But it's kind of an interesting dynamic and dichotomy because I think you probably can find certain areas that. I think Abilene's close enough to the Metroplex, so they get a lot of influence here out there. Whereas Midland, Odessa, even El Paso is way behind. So
Killeen's probably like that too. Waco, I think, is starting to catch up.
Waco has 3 or 4 breweries.
Waco's got a decent scene. I was just down there a couple months ago for the holidays, and we stopped in at, I believe, Southern Grist, maybe.
Yeah, Southern Grist. Yeah, we're one of our customers as well.
Yeah,
Southern Roots.
Southern Roots. That's what it was. Yeah. They had some pretty good beer.
Yeah,
so it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so something we discussed about introducing tonight, and it may be a one-off type deal considering we're still in January. Brew Year's resolutions. What are we planning to do for 2020 that
I'm excited about this, actually.
that we did different in 2019? Go for it then, Chris.
I'm planning on brewing at least once a month.
Okay.
So that I'm going to try and brew at least 6 styles of beer this year that I've never made before and that are not generally available in the area. So
Very cool.
I made a braggot at the beginning of January because...
You're a what?
I made a braggot. Because even contacting breweries that do make braggots, we couldn't find any hidden in the back even to try on a show about braggots.
But we got one of our guys up at our Denton club. That's basically his focus.
Yeah.
Was he's moved away from brewing pretty much without hops. I mean, that's So he's doing, Gruits and Braggots and Meads and things like this.
We got a guy over there, man. What's his name? That's in our club is brewing all those Braggots with Kavite. I mean, not Braggots. Meads.
Meads.
I hate mead.
I know you do.
I know. Sucks. I've heard you talk about this several times. I like a good mead.
My plan is to make a mead.
They quit making that shit 3,000 years ago for a reason.
Who's making mead with Kavite?
I can't remember the he's in our club, man. He always has a buttload. Nate. That's right, Nate.
I've done it 3 times now, and
I've never, ever liked mead. But I would say I kind of like his stuff. It's pretty damn good.
I just want to go on record. Sandra, good job with that beer.
Oh, yeah.
That is hell of a beer.
Bravo.
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
It's right there in front of you in the can.
Oh.
Tall boy right here.
I'm trying. Yeah, we're trying to pass them down.
I thought we were drinking the cat beer.
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's later on.
Cat beer?
I'm a big fan of meads, but they're usually too sweet for me. That's the only thing. I mean,
I like making them dry.
And they taste
I prefer them more like that. I think that's the problem is people who
they taste
never
like
tried different meads. They
I
think mead honey. It's got to be overly sweet and blah
please,
blah blah. No,
please add yeast nutrients.
Yeast nutrients.
Oh yeah, no.
Please do that.
So one of the big things that I preach on meads is there are many modern techniques for doing so, and they're all about balancing nitrogen and nutrient dosing, and it's usually dosing of nutrients and extra nitrogen and DAP.
Okay, so enough about mead.
Going back to
You didn't know
resolution.
it's now come and meet it.
Mead it.
Back to
just mead it.
brew resolutions. I want to try and do at least 6 beers I've never done before this year.
That's cool.
And I'm trying to brew every month. So
Very
I've
cool.
done I did a Roush beer and I've done a Braggot so far. I'm going to try and attempt to do my first lager here soon, and I'm going to try and make a fest beer because that's the only Oktoberfest beer that I actually like.
Nice. All right.
I'm just going to try to brew a batch this year.
Yeah, that would be a thing, wouldn't it?
Well, when you're out on the road visiting 40 or 50 breweries a week, I don't know if you have time to work on one of those.
Yeah, that's what's funny because when you're doing that, a lot of times, and it depends on the area. Sometimes you'll get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, especially in New Orleans. You walk into a brewery at 9 o'clock. You want a beer? No. I mean, every brewery you go to, you want a beer? No. Because you can get messy by the end of the day. I can assure you.
Trust me, I understand that one. When I get to work at 6 a.m. sometimes, and first thing I got to do is a carbonation check. Yeah, it's gonna be a good day.
Nigel, you got anything you want to?
Mine for me is mainly I got to go through my system. I got to tear it all down. I haven't done a good overhaul on my system lately, so I'm gonna tear it down piece by piece and clean it, replace what needs to be replaced, and build it back up again. And that's going to be an ongoing project, of course. But that's what I've got going on. What about you, Justin?
I'm going to take a deep dive.
Oh, Justin's mic isn't plugged in.
Oh.
You best come over here.
I swear
I'm going to actually take a gravity reading this year.
Yeah.
No, I always take pre-boil gravity and then my my final gravity original gravity. But this year I'm going to really try to tighten up things. I'm going to check out my system and really know the ins and outs of it. I'm going to start taking pH readings. I got a pH meter. I'm going to really try to start doing some repeatability and take it to the next level.
Nice.
Very cool.
On that note, I want to add one quick note. we found out while brewing our Roush beer with Brandon that the pH for Irex smoke malt is significantly different from Pils and other base malts.
No, I don't
Absolutely.
imagine. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
We couldn't figure out why we were getting way off mash pH readings, and because we usually
that's good to know.
to it.
I've never actually brewed with smoked malts, so that's
I'm sure it would definitely be more acidic.
Yeah.
So I have only ever brewed with freshly smoked malt, which I was very surprised by the pH as well. You'd be surprised what sticks to that grain when they put it in a smoker.
Yeah.
But as far as like the age stuff, I have no experience with that.
Well, and for you guys, that's something to really hit on. I think for homebrewers especially is that anytime the more the roasted the malts are, the more it's going to affect your pH.
Right.
So like for example, here in Fort Worth, proper. The water here is. Boy, they're really loud in there. And maybe their mic is working. But the pH. So, for example, like typically here in Fort Worth, you actually have to add some lactic acid to adjust your pH. But if you have like a stout or something like that, you probably won't have to adjust your mash pH, or you might have to adjust it the opposite way because the dark malts do add acidity. So that's something to consider when you're doing these. It really depends on where you live and how it really affects your pH with your water. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, that was fun. We'll talk about ESBs in the second part, I believe. But at the brewery, we use 100% reverse osmosis water, so I can just build my profile. Mm-hmm. But at home, that's a little bit different. So I brewed my ESB using 100% Denton water.
Nice.
Which it still turned out really well, but it was...
Is it hard up there? Is it really hard water up there?
Yeah. It's got quite a bit of calcium.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thankfully, though, the sulfides and the chlorides are pretty balanced, which is nice.
Yeah, our water is actually fairly balanced up. I live over in Little Elm area.
Well, what's crazy here in Fort Worth, it's pretty damn soft.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have really good water here in Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because if you ever talk to Jamie Fulton over there, he used to brew the public ale. Yeah. Or he had his Vienna that was really popular at the Covey before they opened community over in Dallas. And he still says that he can't get it right because the water's so different in Dallas than it is here in Fort Worth. So
I've been a big fan of public ale for a long time.
I love that beer.
It's such a good beer. But I have noticed it's gotten a little bit more bitter over the years, I think. And I could 100% believe that's water related.
Yeah, maybe.
For sure.
Maybe. So what's next up here? We got
might have skipped over Brewers
just the
resolution.
tip?
Just the tip, Stubby.
Oh, well.
What were you saying?
What did I say the tip was?
Don't go to any weird New Orleans bars.
Oh, yeah. I was a little tipsy when I texted you that just the tip.
I would never have guessed.
No, you had to be careful there because some people will just shove like shot glasses in your mouth with their boobs, and it's really violating.
That's moving
it's really
on.
Weird.
Moving swiftly on. That's an Irish red that I've just sent round to you guys. So.
What you said? Don't go to
yeah, just be
New
careful.
Orleans bars? I'm confused.
I felt very violated. Anyway,
I would think so. And it's
I think the other one was is don't whatever you do, don't open your own business. That's dumb.
Yeah. There's also that.
Don't have any brewing tips this week. Sorry.
All
no,
right.
you know what? I would like to say this. So I think one of the biggest tips that I can give people is if you are in that transition period of going from homebrew to pro brew, and I see this every single day when I'm out on the road. Don't try to use homebrew chemicals for pro brewing. I mean, it just doesn't work. It's very expensive. It's people are still using, and this is no knock on 5 Star. They're still using PBW and Star Sand. And in a pro brewing environment, it's not very effective. It's very expensive for what they're doing, and so but every single day I see that every single day, and so. If you are starting a brewery, look at different options for talk to some of the chemical companies, see what options there are, because I think in the long run you're going to notice that it'll be a lot less expensive and be a lot more effective. So that's my tip for the day.
It's a pro tip right there.
I can't imagine trying to run a CIP on a fermenter with Star Sand. That thing would fill with foam.
Well, a lot of people.
Beautiful.
See, the thing is that a lot of people think they can use SaniClean. SaniClean is not a sanitizer.
Not for a CIP.
No, it's not. It's not sanitizer at all. And a lot of they should take Sani out of the name.
But say is it Sani or clean? Because
it's really more of a cleaner. It's more of an acidic cleaner than it is a sanitizer. It is not. It's not classified as a sanitizer, and you can call them and ask them about it, and they don't really like that idea. But it truly is not a sanitizer.
Interesting.
So,
Right, over to you. So last time you was on the show was our beer de garde and our seltzer recipe
Yes.
episode, right?
Yes, sir.
And so that was leading up to the Red Coat Challenge, which was a competition that you ran for the first time in 2019, which was for British styles only, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, up there in Denton County Homebrewers Guild. Discussed it before when we were on here. We wanted to do a homebrew competition, and we decided our little niche was going to be British style beers because nobody
Was
really doing that.
Yeah.
And we
Also
all
because
love
I
the
like to
styles.
drink them.
And
so.
you know that
Amen.
wasn't a something inconsiderable to
Right.
if you're going to turn it over to me to brew it, I'm going to brew what that's
right.
what we're doing.
Yep.
So
How'd it go?
well, for first year I thought it went really well. Honestly, we threw it together in a couple of months, basically, 3 months,
2 or
tops.
3 months. Yeah.
Which first of all I would like to give a tremendous shout out and thanks to all the local area business that helped us, but it's most especially Texas Brewing Inc. Thank y'all very much
thank you.
for all the assistance y'all gave.
Yeah,
with
Did we
that.
do anything?
That
Oh,
guy-
y'all donated. We talked. This is something
That guy's a
we talked
wanker.
about at the. There we go. There we go.
We got a gusher, ladies and gentlemen.
Holy
I
crap!
bet we still don't have paper towels in the studio.
they're over there.
I need a freaking mop after that shit.
What are you doing? Anyway, carry on, Brian.
But, when you start putting competition together, if you've never done one before, all the little things start popping up that you have no idea were going to be issues or problems.
Like that.
Well, like this.
See-
Judging beers. We didn't have too many gushers.
You see, you
But-
start giving him his ups, and all of a sudden...
This isn't even a damn homebrew. This is one of your beers.
Not one of mine.
No, yeah, that is. Well,
Oh.
yeah.
It's from your homeland.
Samuel Smith.
What is it?
It's
Brown
Sam
ale.
Smith's
Brown Ale.
Brown Ale. It's
a good
gusher
beer,
from
though.
hell.
Wow, I've
Normal.
never had one of those.
Where
be a
the
gusher.
hell have you been hiding that?
It's been in the refrigerator.
But there was a lot of little things that popped up we weren't expecting.
Yes, it nutted brown all over the place.
Just as far as organizing the beers, I know a bunch of people dropped off beers at Texas Brewing Inc. in loose containers, and we didn't even think about that. You guys donated a bunch of shipping crates to organize that stuff.
So let me interject. We just done Iron Mash, as you know, and we judged it last week.
Right.
And I put out on the website, no 6-pack holders.
Right.
Pack it as though you're going to ship it.
That's
We had individually wrapped bottles. We
Wow.
had 3 or 4, 5, 6-pack holders. We had all sorts of weird and wonderful ways of, and this is a 30 entry competition. And I spoke to pretty much every team and said,
right.
no 6-pack holders, and pack it like you're going to ship it. And they do not listen. They take
That's-
absolutely
yeah.
zero notice of you, and they're going to put them. They're going to hand them in as you hand them in. Yeah, Blue Bonnet, please put them in boxes, package it
And
properly.
we already started changing our website and everything for next year about how to modify and do things different. We had about 40 entries all totaled for first year. Just throwing it together in a couple of months, it came out really well.
Now you restricted the entries a little bit as well.
We did restrict the entries a little bit, and we organized it the way we did, where all British beers were going to be in their kind of separate categories, all British bitters together,
Yeah.
Scottish ales, Irish, things like that. Of course, we didn't get as many entries as we necessarily would have hoped for, but so we
I
had
thought it was-
we had to combine some categories down to just make things easier to judge and
Yeah.
things like that. So-
Honestly, I thought it was a good amount of entries for the first year, and with as
Well,
short a time span. As
That was
getting
one of the
ready.
problems that we had with Ozapt was a German competition that we did with
German beers.
German beers. But the problem is when we did that, we were getting 150, 200 entries, and the problem was we were having a hard time finding judges to be able to judge all of it.
Right.
And when we were having it, as a really odd time of year, is in August. But we at the end of August, but we kind of wanted to do it before September, like before Oktoberfest, and we ended up having to kill it because we just didn't have enough judges to judge it.
Well,
And
so far the amount of entries we had last year, with the amount of judges we had, it worked out really well. We did everything in 2 rounds.
I'm going to say you got it judged pretty quick.
Yeah, we
right?
did all in one day, 2 rounds plus a best of show.
Nice.
We had a BJCP BJCP certified judge for every flight, so it was good. We're hoping next year we hope it expands and grows. which I guess, spoiler alert, yeah, we're doing it again for
Yay!
2020. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I mean, Cap and Hair, Fort Worth Club, put some entries in there, and some guys did really good.
Yeah, I plan on entering next year.
That'd be nice if,
You mean you
The-
make
the-
English beers?
the one guy that I talked to the most in Fort Worth about English beers would enter a beer in the competition. That'd
My
be
wife had a heart attack the week I was going to bottle.
good. Okay.
So,
All right.
All right,
can
he's
only
got
use
it.
Excuses.
hey, it was a good one, and it's the one I'm using, all right?
You can't use that
You're
again next
sticking
year.
to it.
No,
right?
well, I hope not. I hope I don't have to use that one again.
Yeah, try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Red Coat Challenge is a good time, good event at the
What'd you
brewery as
say?
well.
What would you say? What is it called?
Red Coat Challenge.
Oh, I thought you said the rectum challenge.
That is
Stubby.
no.
Stubby
I don't
is
know
here
what
at
that
Brewers
is.
here again
but-
tonight.
I was like,
We don't judge.
Maybe I minced my words a little bit, but Red Coat.
That sounds better.
We haven't had that many beers yet.
Welcome back to Come and Brew It Radio.
Back and
Nah,
better
it
than
was
ever.
it was a very cool event. We always
you
love getting
damn near
homebrewers.
killed him.
and- We always love getting homebrewers.
Sorry,
at the
Brian, we
brewery.
got off the rails here.
That's fine with me. That's as a fan of the show who gets to kind of participate now, I love it. What are you talking about? This is great. But no, we had a great time. Thank you everybody that helped, especially you guys. It was a tremendous level of support. We're looking forward to doing it again this year. Our competition committee will meet the first Sunday of February, and before our regular club meetings, the Denton County
That's
Homebrewers
like
Guild.
next week.
Yeah, something like that. So we're gonna, all the competition committee members, we kind of started piecing together what we liked, what we didn't like, what we'd like to see change, what we could do smoother, things like that. Kind of wish listing.
Yep.
And just as we always envisioned this as being something that we hoped at least would grow and expand over time. And so we're just ready to start taking the next step.
Well, and that's a big thing for all you guys that are homebrewers out there that may be thinking about opening or starting a homebrew competition. It's a lot of damn work.
It's
a lot of
oh yeah,
and the
it's a ton of
problem is that it's a thankless job, and it's all volunteer driven.
I told everybody
And-
at our last meeting. I asked everybody that was on the committee, hey, are you willing to repeat your roles again? And everybody was yes, so we got some continuity with that. It's nice.
Well, that's very good.
And everybody, I said, hey, if anybody else wants to show up, come on over. And they were like, well, what are we going to do? I said, don't worry, we will find you something. There are more than enough tasks to hand out.
That's
for
what I
that.
tell volunteers at the brewery.
you
Don't
go.
worry, there's
Yeah,
something to be done.
Same with Iron Mash this weekend. We did the brew day. There was always something for somebody to help out doing. On awards day, there's always going to be something for somebody to do on awards day. So.
And that's kind of where we are at. And I mean, our homebrew clubs, I think we're a very mature, aging club.
Calling us old?
I may be one of the younger members.
Shut up.
I thought I was one of the youngest members.
You are.
Well, yeah, there's you and about three others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not.
We're a bunch of old farts, really.
I'm really out of my depth here.
So-
As I understand it, to get full membership in Cabin Hair, you have to collecting Social Security, right?
Hey, shut up.
No.
So I'm not there yet.
40
All
years
right.
still in
So
there.
so what's one or two of the simple
Don't
things?
worry, it'll be defunded by then.
What's one or two of the simple things you'd change this year, Brian?
More volunteers.
More volunteers, of course. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
nice. I think we're going to eliminate some of the specialty category stuff.
Scottish beers?
No.
Oh. Okay.
But they're not
Colonial?
British. That's different.
No, they're very British. They're not English.
yeah. So they
All
can
right,
go.
they're not English. Excuse me.
It is a
Yeah.
British beer competition.
I forget the company I'm in.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Watch yourself, laddie.
Are we doing English beers or British beers?
We're doing British beer,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
which we'll discuss more when we get to the ESB section. I have a British ESB, not an English E ESB.
Well, I have an
that's-
English ESB that's going to blow yours out
That's
of the
But
water.
That's
anyway,
disqualified already.
so one thing is just I tried to give people, when I kind of put it together, I was kind of trying to give people some room to show some creative spark and do your own thing, but stay within a kind of
Yeah.
color within the guidelines, sort of. But some of the stuff was just way out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
It didn't really have a spot to fit in. It really wasn't what you'd think of in the British or English brewing tradition. That the whole thing with the competition was about. It was showing that off and celebrating that.
Well,
So-
we've gotten some problem. We had some problems with that with Ozat. We had a specialty category, and it was like people were just like putting in weird shit like Baltic porters, and I'm like, oh, that's not really
Like
German.
Old ales on Brett.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
that
like,
can
I
be very
kinda-
German.
Can be.
Can be, I guess. Yeah, but
Anybody
so,
can
It
make
could,
bad
could
beer.
be a Scottish, could be a Scottish ESB or something. You know.
for fuck's
Something
sake.
like that.
Hey, as long as there's smoked malt in that Scottish.
Okay, all right. Now
Don't
we're starting
you
to get
dare
into fighting words.
put
Hang on.
smoked malt. No, it's
Gotta have peat.
You gotta have
Oh
peat
my
in
God,
it.
you heathens.
Wait, like Pete from the show has to be in it?
Yeah. Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
He's gotta like
This is dunk his junk
he
right in there.
mashes. He like steps on the mash like
Right.
squishing
Um,
grapes.
yeah.
Like,
One other thing was I would like to. Apparently, we tried to get the word out to have other club members, BJCP judges, show up to help judge, and we did it using the email software or the email feature on the software the judging software, Reggie Beer. And apparently, people weren't getting the messages in time, and so that's something we're gonna have to reach out. Maybe getting a mailing list. Contact number, something like that. We're working with our head judge, T. Michael, to
You can
'Cause
get
we would
like a MailChimp.
MailChimp. But yeah, right.
It's very it's free until you get like I think 500 emails or something like that.
we would like some not necessarily participation, but we want more people involved with the judging of it. We didn't want it to be necessarily an all just Denton County event. That's we wanted you guys up there. We want to invite y'all up to share with us.
Well,
and judge.
that's in Oklahoma, so we don't go that far.
Okay, all right. Hang on now.
I thought it was near Canada, actually.
Oh,
They're so
God.
close to Oklahoma, they can hear it sucking. I mean,
Oh,
well, you know
the
that
sucker blow. I don't.
I'm
I
just
forget all the
kidding.
time.
I'm just kidding.
right.
I love
Occupied North
Oklahoma.
Texas.
I'm
Thank
very
you.
confused because I'm from Oklahoma and somehow I'm still being made fun of. I don't know what's going on here.
But yeah, so just maybe get more kind of advertisement for a better lack of other word. Just get the word out more.
Well,
get more
just
entries, things like that.
If this would help at all for you guys, we always have the Blue Bonnet judging here too. So if it would help for you to have more of a central location for having brewing or even a second judging area, just always hit us up. We're always willing to help out.
Thank you.
you.
It was
we appreciate
tremendously generous for what y'all did already, and thank you for the continued support.
But also come down here for Blue Bonnet judging.
Oh, we all are,
and
yeah.
reach out to
All-
those judges that are here.
No,
and
that
say,
was
hey,
that was once we started doing our own competition, like we started. Some of us had already started it, but a few others started, volunteering at other events and helping to judge and steward and things like. It was like, whoa, that's when we realized how much work it was. So, a lot of our guys, I think almost all of our BJCP started guys are judging at Blue Bonnet, so volunteering for that. So
Speaking as a BJCP started person, when is Blue Bonnet judging? Do we know?
It's starting next week. I think.
Next week?
So registration. No, sorry.
So
Entry entry check-in is the first Saturday in February,
Okay,
and then it will be Friday nights and Saturdays after that.
perfect. I will be there
I
at
think
some
there's,
point.
I think there's 4 Friday nights and 4 Saturdays after.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to get it all wrapped up by the end of February.
Yeah.
Here at least.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay,
I'm moving
awesome.
out of this building.
Yeah.
so-
So
I'll see you guys in February.
yeah.
I
So
guess.
February
Awesome.
February the 1st is check-in,
yeah.
and then it's the 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th, 21, 22, 28, 29.
Awesome. That sounds great.
For you guys that are entering Blue Bonnet, please, 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 my God,
No 6-pack holders.
no 6-pack holders, and please bring your bottles labeled with the rubber bands. We don't supply you rubber bands. We don't print labels off for you. We don't have time for that.
seriously, guys,
And I mean, it's not that I'm trying to be a dick, but when I have 4 or 5 people,
You don't have to try.
we yeah, that's true. But we don't. We just don't have. We don't have the resources or the time to be able to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, we would like
Yeah.
to, but
just the minor thing was we ran into
Oh my
with 40
God.
entries. I can imagine what you guys go through with
Last
how many
time
entries was
I mean,
last year?
I mean, we had
15,
people.
25 is
1,500.
what it's
Yeah,
capped
you
at.
know,
We had people show up
crazy.
today with just bottles of beer. I mean, just loose bottles of beer, and I'm like, you don't have a bill lady, you don't have your entry forms, you don't have bottle labels, you don't.
help
Okay,
help
can-
me help you.
And
Come on.
it's like, oh, well, can you print those labels off for me? No, go home. I don't care if you live 30, 45 minutes, an hour away.
It's really the organizers of these competitions. We're not trying to be dicks, guys. We're really not.
Yeah,
We do this
it's
to try
difficult.
to enjoy this with everybody. But I noticed on the Blue Bonnet website and on ours and other they're fairly simple instructions, guys. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, absolutely.
At some point, you got to adult up and.
I mean,
just
if
do
they've got-
basic
if
things. I mean,
and
come
my
on.
God, if they're able to weave their way through the Blue Bonnet website and actually sign up with entries, they should be able to know how to pack the damn things because it's impossible to register on the SOB.
You've done the hard part. You've brewed the beer.
You brewed the beer, yeah.
Just
like I said,
fill out the paperwork. It's not
help
hard.
us help you. That's really all there is to it.
That's it.
I don't mean it to sound like a bitch session, but again, if you haven't ever worked in a homebrew competition or go
You should.
volunteer at one, you should go see what's involved. Like Stubby was saying, volunteers, like it's amazing how much work goes into one of these things, and we're not
really
getting
is.
paid a dime for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
You're not.
let's talk about Denton County. Real
Yeah,
quick.
Austin.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
in a few quick sentences? What do you have going on at Denton County Brewing Company?
Well, we've got some awesome stuff. So today, we just released one of our first sours.
Nice.
So we're very excited about that. It is a blend of a Belgian blonde ale and a American wheat ale that was aged for over 12 months in a blue ostrich Cabernet barrel. So it's a wild, naturally, whatever was in
You
that
brought
barrel.
us one?
I did not. I'm sorry. I was told ESBs, so I brought ESBs.
I will flog him later. I apologize.
That's fine. Next time.
ESB focused, but not solely.
See, I wish I would have known. I don't know.
And we need to talk about ESB's name as well later on, but we'll do that later.
Okay. So that as far as upcoming events, let's see what we got. I had it pulled up just a second ago.
Come on.
I know.
Yeah. do.
Okay, so all right.
We're a
so,
little backwards up north
all right.
there in Denton County. Sorry, guys.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry about that. Yeah, we like to take our time.
It's that definitely
Up in-
deafening
Up
whistling
in
sound.
Oklahoma, we like to take our time. So sorry that you guys are. Anyway, so this week we do yoga every Sunday, jam night 7:30 on Wednesday, karaoke Thursdays, and then this weekend or this Friday, I guess next Friday is we've got the Texas Sky Band, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
So, but every Friday we're gonna have a beer release. I believe next week is a mystery hazy IPA. So
Cool.
come in and guess what the fruit is or what the flavoring is, and I think you win a can of it to go or something like that.
Cool.
And you guys also have cask beer available, right?
Justin's
We
pumping his
do have
fist
cask
over there.
beer. Cask beer. I will clarify. Not cask beer. Beer engine.
Yeah.
Yes. Our cask is not set up, or our beer engine is not set up for a cask at the moment. Coming soon,
Right.
hopefully.
Cool.
That's cool.
So yeah, I want to be very careful because I've already gotten some people who are like, "That's not cask beer."
True aficionados,
Yeah.
But I will say, having had the beer that's on engine up there on regular draft system versus on the engine, it's a completely different beer.
It's
and
very different.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic off the engine up there.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that beer engine. So, no, come on up. I know we're way up in Oklahoma, up in Denton.
hear us.
But
Now, where are y'all located specifically?
we are about a block and a half off the square in downtown Denton.
Okay.
So we're if you know where East Side is, we're right behind East Side.
Okay.
Over by the Bearded Monk. Share a parking lot with them.
Cool.
So yep.
Honestly, the parking there is a little tight.
Yeah.
The best place to park, honestly, after 5 o'clock, it's
Is-
unlimited at the post office right across the street.
Okay.
It's open, free parking. There's
I haven't been up to Denton on purpose. Not talking crap, but
Yeah.
for
Yeah. No offense taken.
a year or two since I dated a girl who's going to D&T or
Yeah.
UNT. Rather.
UNT. Yeah.
But
I thought you
there's-
said she was going into
DNT.
DTs. I was like, whoa.
well, eventually,
Study's hearing all sorts of things today.
Yeah.
there's a tremendous amount of stuff to do up there in Denton.
Oh
though.
yeah,
it's
it was a
amazingly
great
fun.
scene.
Yeah, that's something I really want to stress, actually, Brian, is, we have technically 4 breweries in Denton now. And
That's true,
It's
yeah, right.
growing
Yeah.
so much. So, something we in Denton really want you guys to know is that we're just as much a beer scene as Dallas or Fort Worth. You can totally justify a day trip to come on up and say hi and drink some good beer.
The
You
square
can- you
area
can-
is really walkable too.
You
Oh,
can
it's
walk around and
very
then drink your
walkable.
beers.
And there's a
Open.
train.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, there's no. That's totally legal.
Yeah, opening a
It's-
tanner
that's a-
is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So come on up and
You want to do some great day drinking and walk around the square and check out all the little restaurants and do the little brewery. They have like a whole
Yeah.
brewery tour crawl thing. It's fantastic.
This
Yeah.
segment brought to you by the Denton County Tourism Guild.
Well, they
You're
should if they
absolutely
haven't.
right.
But
You're
yeah.
absolutely. Oh, they do. I'm part of it. It's great. No, but yeah, come check out Denton. Stop by Denton County and drink our beer. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Nigel, did you
Yeah.
want to talk to them about Greg's
No, I
beers,
wanted
the
to
thing?
kick you in the balls.
Well,
I love
and,
you too, man.
Get after
that's,
it.
and that's very likely. So, you think I'm joking? So anyway, so as
I
you,
love you, man.
yeah, well, that's one directional, right? So, I'm moving on to a serious subject.
Yep.
As you know, or you may have heard, in November we lost Greg,
Yeah.
and we had his celebration of life at the Cowtown Brewery in November, and a discussion was held because Greg was held in such high esteem around the brewing community.
Man, it was crazy. There was
Yeah.
so many people there.
That was an
Yeah,
amazing
we
event.
we probably
It
had
was-
250 people there, and so and several of the local breweries were at the event, and we had a discussion with a few of them, and it was agreed that we would come together as a community and we would brew some beer in Greg's name and Greg's honor, and the brewery said, well, let's use Greg's recipes. So working with Trish, Greg's wife, we came up with a sample of recipes for the breweries to brew, and we offered them for the brewers to go through his recipes and decide what beers fitted their portfolios the best and fitted what they wanted to do most appropriately. And so we've got 9 breweries this year going to brew one of Greg's recipes. I think we're going to have about 10 or 11 beers brewed in total. The first brewery is going to be Cowtown. They're going to release their beer in March, which was Greg's birthday month, and I believe it's going to be around Greg's birthday. There's going to be a donation from each brew, donated to either the family or a nominated charity nominated by the family. And the batch size and donation is going to be up to the individual brewery as well. But keep an eye out for your brewing social media and stuff. You're going to see some publicity about it. We'd ask that you'd support the brewers doing the release. There's probably going to be one release per month per brewery, and we ask that, like I say, you go out there, you enjoy Greg's recipes, enjoy Greg's beers, and you support the breweries, because the donations and the support is going to go to Greg's family or to their chosen charity.
Yeah, and which I think that's what's really cool and neat about this whole deal is absolutely, if anybody that knew Greg would know that he was held in high regard, because the guy was a kick-ass brewer. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he was.
And so,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so one of the things that's really neat is that we
We've had the discussion more than once that we
Yeah.
determined that Greg was likely a witch or a wizard.
Yeah,
of some
absolutely.
sort.
Yeah, I mean, he just knew, he just had a knack for it, and so I think that's really one of the things that. And it was really a special night. It was a very emotional night, especially for me. It was. I guess that's what's so amazing about this community, especially with home brewers and pro brewers, and they're so connected, and they all are really involved in the community is a general rule, I guess, and we've all kind of, I mean, most of the guys that they're at that place that own breweries now, or came from the Homebrew Club, and or vice versa, and so it was a really special, neat thing, and it makes me really happy and proud to be a part of the brewing community that we were in. So it was a real special night, and so I look forward to. I can't think of a better way to send off Greg than having all these guys brew his recipes. I think that's going to be really special, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, the first one, like I say, release in mid-March at Cowtown. I believe it's going to be his Weissenbock.
Ooh.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's a good beer too.
Absolutely.
So. All right,
Absolutely.
so we're going to take a break and come back the second half and drink some strong bitters.
And Nigel's going to kick me in the balls.
And I'm going to kick Stubby in the balls twice.
Wow. 2 times.
Well, the first
One
time
for
he's
each
standing
ball.
I'm just
up,
surprised I didn't
second
get a
time he's
shoe,
not,
man.
so-
I'm just
I
saying.
talked